Okay, in this next video, we are going to position this table. You can't see the table lines, but there is a table here with 2 rows and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 columns. But before that, let's do a quick bit of a quick review here. So if we look in our Notepad++, we have our HTML file, which contains the information that's being displayed. It contains here the text, it contains here the images, or not there, yeah, it contains here the images, it contains here the paragraph text, and what we're doing is we're using CSS to define how that stuff is formatted, what it looks like, what the font is, font size, the spacing, you know, the spacing between the lines. We're going to move it into position. We're going to repeat down the y-axis only on the left-hand side. Okay. So we have HTML, which defines the content, and we have CSS that defines the styling and positioning. So we're going to keep on going here. All right. So this is what we have so far. Just going to move this table right into here. Okay. And we're going to keep W3 Schools here as our reference guide. So getting back to here, all right. Now, if we look at that table in is HTML, we see here that the table. Okay, this is the table here. So this is the start of the table. Okay, and the very bottom, this is the end of the table. All right. And inside the table, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows. Alright, so you can see here I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 columns. Okay, so this is the row number 1. This is row number 1. This is row number 1 here. And row number 1, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 columns. So I have column number 1. Okay, column number 2, 3, and 4. Okay, that's how an HTML table works. You notice that this is the start of the row and this is the end of the row. You notice that everything between the start of the row and the row is indented one. Okay, this is the start of the table cell and this is the end of the table cell. You notice that everything inside the table, everything that I highlighted, is also indented from here to here to show that all of this is actually subordinate to or part of the HTML table. Now, the most important thing is you notice that the table has an ID tag. This links the table to my CSS. All right, the ID tag. And you notice that the table, okay, you notice the table is wrapped by div tags. And remember from the last lesson, div tag is the equivalent of a text box inside Microsoft Word. So you know what a text box is. You know you could resize it and move it around. Well, the table is inside of a text box. So we're going to move that text box into the middle of the cookie jar. All right. So starting with W3 Schools, go back to CSS3, go back to reference, okay, and go back to position. So down here, find position. And again, I hate to admit this, but seriously, one of the most, confusing things in CSS to me is what positioning is. Okay. So let's just dive in and do it. I think that's the best way to learn how to position it. So we know that this text box, okay, which the table is inside. The table is inside of a text box called table div. This ID links this text box to the CSS sheet, right? So I need to take this table div and I need to start a new CSS property. So I'm going to go $, table div, I think what it's called. Yes, table div. Make sure the spelling is correct. Open squiggly bracket, close squiggly bracket. Okay, in here I'm going to go position. So which position do I need to use here? This is the confusing part. So which of these 5 do I need to use? Default is static. Okay, don't need to do that. Well, I'm just going to dive into it. We need to use the absolute positioning. The element is positioned relative to its first position non-static ancestor element. What the heck does that mean? Here's what it means. Okay. If you observe the document here, you notice that this text box is actually inside of the main content text box. Okay, so really this text box here is subordinate to, or an ancestor of, or a child element of this main content. So this is like a big text box, and inside of it is this text box here. So we want to position this text box relative not to the corner of the screen, but relative to this text box. And if you remember from the last video, alright, we positioned that main content in the middle of the screen. This positions it in the middle of the screen. So we want this table div to be positioned relative to this one here. It's confusing because we want to position it relative, but we're actually going to use the absolute property to do it. Alright, so the element is positioned relative to the first position non-static ancestor element. Okay, what that basically means is it's going to be positioned in relation to this one here. Okay, this text box in which this one is part of, or subordinate to, or a child of this parent text box. Okay, enough talking. So let's go position absolute. Alright. Okay, now if we go back to our browser, just imagine for a minute that there's an 800 pixel box going here down the middle of the screen here. Draw a imaginary line in the middle of the screen. There's 400 pixels going this way and 400 pixels going this way. Alright, so we want to start maybe roughly around here. Okay, so I'm going to go top 260 pixels. Okay, so move it down from the top 260 pixels. I want to move it left. Let's say 310 pixels. Alright, so can save it. Okay, now that's a good start. Okay, that's not a bad start. So from the div, okay, I moved it down from the top and down from the left, not from the corner of the screen, but from the beginning of that div. Okay. So now, how do I get these numbers so fast? I've done this before, and I just know the numbers. Realistically, if you're doing this for real, you need to kind of hunt around for the right numbers. All right. So you go like this, right? You go, okay. Now that's no. It needs to be moved more from the left. So more from the left. Okay. So I'm gonna crank the left up to, I don't know, 310. Okay. Alright, that's all right. And then now it needs to move down a little bit, but not too much, just a little bit. So I'm going to move down, let's say 200 and I don't know, 60. Save it back here and refresh it. Okay, and you can see it move. Now, what we can also do is we could format the width of the table. Okay. So again, using CSS to define the format of the table, what we can also do is we can change the width of the table by putting the width right inside here. But it's a way better idea to use CSS to change to define the formatting. So that's what we're going to do. All right. So you notice here that the table ID has the table tag has an ID. An ID is a link to the CSS, okay, called table content. So we have a couple choices. We can actually define the width here. We can go width equals, all right. But what we're going to do is we're going to use CSS instead because it's a much better way of doing it. So this is the link, table content to the table, what do I need to do here? Well, I need to go number sign, table, content, right, open squiggly bracket, close squiggly bracket, and here I'm going to go width. Oh no, before you do that, okay, if you go in here, if you go back to CSS, alright, and if you look for table, home, CSS3, okay, if you can't find it, let's just do a Google search. Google, okay, site, w3schools.com, CSS table format. Alright, styling tables. There you go. So you have all of your styling tables here. We're going to use one called width. You could try it yourself. Alright, so that's how you find information very quickly. So using site, that means I only want to search this site, W3 Schools, and then what you want to search for. Okay. Alright, so I'm going to go width, colon, I don't know, I'm going to make the table 400 pixels. Alright, so here is my property, separated by a colon, and here is my my value. Okay. So what I'm going to do here is go back to here and refresh it. There you go. So I'm spreading my table out just a little bit. Now what I want is, if you look for this one here, you notice that this column here and this column here, columns 1, 2, and 3, so columns 1 and 3 are justified to the right. You notice in the HTML, I very cleverly put all the table text has, guess what, their own, not ID, but class. So both ID, so in ID it links it to the CSS sheet, okay, and class also does the same thing. It links it to the CSS sheet. What's the difference between ID and class? I don't remember, to tell you honestly. Anyways, so class text. So we want to sort all of these ones to right justified, okay, and they're all nicely formatted. They're all nicely arranged so that if I define CSS for this element, table text, okay, I should be able to do it. Now, because this is a class and not an ID, all right, I need to use something a little bit different than a number sign. So I'm going to use a dot, okay, and table content, open squiggly bracket, close squiggly bracket, and in here I'm going to go float, and go right. And again, what you can do is in W3 Schools, okay, search for site, w3schools.com, CSS table format, and in here you can try out all your different types of table formatting. Okay, so very useful properties here, or very useful tutorial here. Okay, so float right. Okay, now when I do that, save everything, come back to here, okay, right here. Now watch what happens to this call. Watch what happens here and here. Okay, that didn't work. You know what I did wrong here? Table text, not table content. And I guess that's obviously why it's red. That was funny. Okay, so let's try this again. So come here. Now watch what happens to this column and this column. Alright, so it justified to the right. Okay, so I think that's as far as we're going to go. Add one little thing here. Let's add some CSS comments, alright? So a comment is ignored by the browser, okay? So when I go like this, when I save it, you notice that all this is in green. If I go back to here and refresh it, okay, it's going to forget all this stuff, but except for the background formatting, because you notice how it's color coded, and notice how this is green. This is a comment tag, so because I commented all this stuff out, the browser is going to ignore it. So the comments are like a sticky note. You use it to write reminders to yourself. So in this case here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to comment this. I'm going to say comment. Oh no, I'm going to say main div formatting. All right. And then this one here, I'm going to go comment again. Positioning the cookie jar. Alright, star and slash. And then here, I'm going to go positioning and formatting the table. Alright. So that's it for this tutorial, and I'll see, or that's it for this lesson. I'll see you in the next lesson. All right.